What if the real monsters weren't in haunted houses or in corn mazes or all those other scary places, but in our own hearts and minds? What if the shadows where we fear most are not creatures of folklore or myth, but in the hidden places within us where fear, shame, anger, deception, and attachment live unchecked? I am Justin Gates, your host, and my co-host joining me today is Michael Perry.
Hey, fam.
And we are the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we continue on kind of our little spooky season themed shows. And today we're going to talk about the monsters within. Now, some of these things we have talked about in full episodes. Some of those, I think, and I know you agree, Michael, that we should always continue to talk about some of those things. And I added in a few other ones that we really haven't spent much time on. So this show's going to feel a little different because we're going to go through each of these shadows. And before we move on to the next one, I'm going to give you a mini exercise rather than just one big exercise at the end. So that way you can come back to the show and find the one that you want to focus on for that week, that month, that whatever, this year. And you can focus on that and not have to worry about anything else. So
we'll leave timestamps in the show notes for you to find those sections.
We definitely will. These monsters that we're talking about today, Michael, they're actually really scary. Not fake scary, not Scooby-Doo scary, right?
Yeah. But realistically, they're the type of monsters that haunt us on a daily basis. The things that hold us back from our greatness and the things that, end up keeping us up at night.
Right. And they don't only come out under the cover of darkness at night. They walk with us, for some of us, for a lot of us, in our daily lives. Fear keeps us small, and shame isolates us, and anger blinds us. Deception, that was something we talk about a lot, masks our truth. And of course, attachment keeps us chained. Shadows like these thrive in silence for most of us, but they lose their power the moment that they are named and brought into the light, which is something we really love to do here. And we're going to do that today. And as always, this is not about demonizing or blaming ourselves or anyone else, but kind of courageously facing these parts of us that we would generally rather ignore. So
it's all about that healing work, right? Yeah. All these things are things that take practice, it takes work, and hopefully we can shed some lights on how you can start cultivating strength in these areas and work on facing your monsters.
That's right. So the axiomal light that we're going to start off talking about today, before we get into these, I'm talking about these 5 monsters, is confusion distorts reason. When in doubt, do not act. Seek guidance and proceed cautiously. In moments of uncertainty and confusion, my advice is this. And Michael, you can give your advice here in a minute. Do not allow the storms of doubt to cloud the clarity of your reason. As always, turn inward, and seek the counsel of your inner wisdom. There it is there. There's a lot of wisdom there inside of us. Through our connection with the force, with the light of creation, with creation and creator itself, with each other. Remember, we're all interconnected. But at the same time, don't let your foolish pride stop you from seeking the counsel of others. Doesn't have to be us, right? Find someone in your circle of trust to help you with this, or go get professional help with some of these if you need to. So, because really wisdom is often found in that collective experience of humanity, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I got to touch on with what you said about going to your inner wisdom comes from here, not from here. Mm-hmm. Often when these monsters kick on, they hijack our minds. Mm-hmm. And when we allow our minds to be taken hold by the feelings we are feeling, it takes us down spirals and makes us react and makes us respond in ways that we would not want to. So in this axiom, confusion distorts reality. It's the truth. And so you have to pause in that storm. You have to go inwards. You have to ask yourself, are the thoughts I'm thinking, are the words I'm wanting to say reactionary? Or is this coming from a place of virtue? Is this coming from my own values? Because often when these monsters rear their ugly heads, they take hold and they become the voice inside of us.
Yeah. Am I responding? Right? Am I responding with truth and clarity and wisdom and not just reacting? The Luminari understand the importance of clarity and discernment in navigating these complexities. So when confusion clouds our reasoning, the best thing we could do is avoiding, as you said, these impulsive actions. That's prudent. That is most important. And in our tradition, there is great value in silence, is there not? And the practice of what we call non-action. This doesn't mean inaction, not doing anything, because as Michael will remind you, right?
Yeah. Inaction, man. It keeps you stuck. It shrinks that world around you, and it makes all these monsters 10 times bigger.
Right. So by pausing and seeking guidance, whether that's within or someone you trust. And like I said, it could be self-reflection, meditation, or literally seeking counsel from others. We allow these muddy waters of confusion to settle back to the bottom. And it helps us find that clarity of mind. But as Michael said, wisdom's here. This is what gets attacked during these moments of confusion. The heart is never confused about what it wants. We're confused about sometimes how to talk to the right. So, and when we can do this, we come from a place of wisdom and alignment with all of creation. Human beings are creatures driven by needs and wants, and we are fueled by our emotional desires. And unfortunately, that means our emotional reactions. And all of us are subject to these shadows and these monsters we're going to talk about today. And because of this, you must consider the quality of your thoughts and your motives and your actions. Make sure they align. Are your thoughts aligned with what your heart is really telling you? Because fear and anger, hatred, these are all precursors to doubt, confusion, envy, and suffering. So
it's all about balance, right?
Every time, everywhere. It may look like this, but I haven't done this in a while. It may look like this.
No, you haven't.
But try to get here, but it might be here. So the agreement that ties into this, first and foremost, is responsibility.
We got to be responsible for ourselves. I mean, we are our own, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going blank. We are our own representatives.
That's right.
And when we present ourselves, when we carry ourselves, the way we respond is how people take us in. We can have the best of intentions, but when we are being reactionary, that is what people will see. And often when we're reactionary, it's coming from something much deeper than the surface level event that's going on in front of you.
Yeah. We are accountable for the state of our inner world. We are. It sucks. But those monsters and shadows that we ignore, they become the monsters and shadows that rule over us and speak for us and act for us, right?
Yeah, practically possess us.
So, of course, the ethos that tie into this would be truth. Without honesty, these shadows remain hidden. And hidden things do what, Michael? They grow.
Yeah.
They grow, and they grow out of hand. But when we shine a light of truth on them, we discover that they're not undefeatable horrors, but parts of ourselves longing to be transformed by the truth, by the light, and not shunned or done away with, but brought in, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love how you present it like that because it's the truth. The more you avoid looking at these monsters, the more they integrate into your everyday life without you even realizing it. There are so many people that suffer from anger or fear, and they don't realize that that's a response. That's not who they are as a person.
So our first monster, we got to start off with fear. And fear is the paralyzer.
When I think of fear, I struggled a lot with fear in my life. From the bullying I went through to a lot of different events of helplessness I suffered. Fear is something that I still to this day struggle with. And what I've come to realize when facing this monster is when you go to, why are words so hard today? when you go to stand up for yourself, when you go to, why is this word escaping me? Scratch all that. When you go to advocate for yourself, it's like your nervous system catches on fire. Is the best way I can describe it. And you just don't want to do anything but shut down or run away. And you got to confront that. You got to be able to calm that nervous system, that monster. You got to bring yourself to a place where fear no longer is what is dictating your actions, the way you show up. You got to be able to manage it, bring it down, and then act from a place of truth.
Yeah. Fear is perhaps the oldest monster or shadow of them all, right? It magnifies suffering. It magnifies danger. It distorts our perception, and it paralyzes us. before we can ever grow. It's that thing that whispers, you are not strong enough, not ready enough, not worthy enough. And when you leave it unchecked, it makes us shrink from opportunity, from connection, from our own potential. Courtney was talking about this the other day in our show with her about forgiveness, where she talked about how she used to be proud of being a chameleon and she would shrink herself down, right? Wherever she was, she could be this, she could be that. And she learned that by doing that, she was just handing over control to others. It was as if they were holding her down and shrinking her down. Fear does this. Fear does this. And like all of these, this grows larger only when light is behind it. Like like any regular shadow, right? So what do we have to do? We have to turn and face it. We have to reveal the illusion that fear gives us. Now, fear is not to be confused with caution. This is something that I teach on this path, right? Because, when I taught you about the nature of fear, like any logical person, you said, well, sometimes we have to be afraid. We have to be afraid not to run out into traffic. We have to be afraid not to touch fire and things like this. No, that's caution. That's caution. That's wisdom. Caution is wisdom. Discernment is wisdom. Fear? No, fear is a shadow. Fear is a shadow that kills us.
Remember that lesson.
Right. What are some things that some easy things that we could do to kind of start looking at fear, to instead of growing the shadow, face it?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is to be honest. What is it that triggers fear within you? Is it having hard conversations? Is it people who are being aggressive or angry? What are the things that trigger fear in your nervous system? And once you figure that out, we have a comfort zone that when it shrinks around us, it slowly goes inward. And the more we resist taking action that is outside of our comfort zone, the more it'll come in around us. So exposure therapy is the number one thing I would say for fear. You need to put yourself into situations that trigger that fear so you can start learning how to handle your nervous system and handle those situations in a new way. Yeah. And that's going to take practice. It's going to be messy. It is going to be emotional. But the more you do this, the easier it's going to be because you're retraining your body that you're safe. Right. The issue is so many emotions are stuck. I was talking earlier about being bullied. That fear from my childhood carries on to my adult life where I don't feel it's safe to speak up for myself. Mm-hmm. And so in those situations, I've had to, I intentionally, when I feel myself, if someone's talking crap or belittling, it's like I have to step up and realize, nope, I'm not going to tolerate this. I need to speak up and advocate for myself. And it's uncomfortable as hell. I've been practicing this for 2 years and it takes work. It's gotten easier, but practice.
Yeah. One of our axioms of light help us do this. And that axiom is perception is reality. Perception is indeed a powerful force in shaping our understanding of reality, right?
Right.
Each person's perception colors their experience, and it does influence their beliefs and actions, and is also influenced by their beliefs and their actions and their thoughts, to include those thoughts of fear, right? So our attitudes, our beliefs, our biases, our experiences, our actual mindsets help shape our perspective and literally manifest the universe we experience from moment to moment. If these parts are influenced and controlled by fear or doubt, the desire to control, or any of these monsters or shadows, then your reality will be one of imbalance, struggle, and suffering.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at your schemas, right? You got to look at the blueprint you have of how the world works and how you fit in it. And often there are going to be evacuation plans that your soul knows, and you don't.
I love that.
Because it's not until you're in the heat of it that are you starting to run for the exit.
To tie into this with something that happens in real life. I've been a first responder I was a first responder. Right now I'm not, but I was for like 20 years. And I could tell you one of the number one things that I've learned is that nobody practices how to evacuate. Nobody has a plan, and it kills people, and they get stuck or they get hurt really badly. So I love how you said that. That's perfect, because that applies here. You should have at least the understanding of how you can change, how you can evacuate, as you said. That's beautiful. That's perfect.
And I think schemas really tie into all of these different monsters we're getting into. So keep that at the front of your mind as we talk about these unconscious hidden shadows that rear their ugly heads, because they're there for a reason.
For people who people aren't familiar with that word, can you explain that real quick?
I think the best way to describe it is kind of how I mentioned it. It's a blueprint of how we understand the world and how we know we fit in it. When we have a schema, which we all do, I don't care who you are, you have a schema that tells you this is how the world works, this is what's good, this is what's bad, and this is who I am in it. Am I good? Am I bad?
Mm-hmm.
Am I broken? Or am I better than everyone else? Our schema is the blueprint of all of that and how it all fits together. And the way that ties into these unconscious monsters is when you don't know your whole schema, how you process data, how you understand things to be, because often it's automatic. Our minds are meant to categorize, to file things away, to make things as unnecessary for thought as possible. But sometimes we file away some bad information that ends up haunting us for a long time.
Yeah, and the check always comes due.
Yeah.
So again, if these parts are influenced or controlled by a shadow like fear, your struggle and suffering will extend beyond you to others in your life too. But, I love buts here. If these parts are influenced by love, truth, integrity, connection, respect for life, which are our ethos, then the reality you create will be one of balance and growth and positive transformation, alchemy from lesser to gold, right? So, and by extension, those in your life will feel your kindness and compassion, and they will be enriched by that too. So, when we talk about this in relation to this axiom, in pursuing wisdom, it is wise to consider multiple perspectives and seek a deeper understanding of not just the objective reality underlying our various perceptions, but how are we getting to these subjective things, right?
Yeah.
And through this discernment is really key here. One can navigate the complexities of life with greater clarity and insight. It's not a magic pill, but it will be much easier if you use discernment and do things with clarity.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now, and it's called The Coddling of the American Mind. And it talks about how when it comes to things, the first thing it starts off with is the peanut allergies that go on in schools, how they ban peanuts everywhere. They did a study, and they had half the kids have peanuts as kids and grow up to the age of 5, and then they had the other half where they weren't allowed to have peanuts at all until the age of 5. And 20% of the kids who were not allowed to have peanuts got a peanut allergy. 3% of the ones who had peanuts didn't get a peanut, did not, or developed a peanut allergy. 3%. And what this shows is, what's really fascinating about this is the more we avoid difficult things, the more we avoid things that trigger us, the more they gain hold over us.
Right.
The more adverse we become to it, the more it will impact us every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a fascinating chapter to read that, because I've always believed that, but you see studies, I mean, that was just one of the couple studies in there, but
yeah,
I mean, it's physiological.
Right. It is. It is. I probably shared this in a very early show that we did, because I think you brought this up one time. Something similar to this was that with all of my kids, the first time I gave them like strawberries, or the first time I gave them peanuts or any other kind of nuts, we did it near the hospital, just in case, just in case. But because I wanted to make sure that they actually couldn't eat this thing or whatever, because of all my food issues. So the agreement that ties into confronting fear, the paralyzer, has to be courage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because what is courage? It's acting even when we are afraid. It is never the absence of fear, but acting despite it.
That's right. Does not mean we're fearless, because we do have fear. I have fear. It means we choose to move forward despite it, right? But I will say, even though it doesn't mean that we're not fearless all the time, but every act of courage that we employ chips away at that hold that fear has on us. Because what does that do? That proves to ourselves, right, that we are greater than that voice of fear. That you can't. It's too scary. It chips away at that, and it loses control.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's retraining your nervous system that you can handle this now. You aren't that helpless little kid anymore.
Right. So for our first exercise, we're going to pause like we always do. We love to pause. Pause is a powerful tool, right? We're going to pause and breathe. You're going to place your hand over your heart. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Name your fear. Whisper it aloud or write it in your journal. And I'll give you an example. I'm afraid of failing. That's pretty common. You're going to shift your perception once you name it. Once you call it out, you need to ask yourself, is this fear, if this fear were only a shadow, what light or what truth would it reveal? So, in just a couple examples, fear of failure may reveal a hunger that you have inside to grow or to be successful or to do a podcast or to write a book or do whatever. If it's fear of rejection, that may reveal to you a lifelong a longing for connection, real connection, right? So, and act small as always, act small, but act now. Choose one tiny little step you can take today that moves you forward despite fear. You can't destroy it, but you can move despite it.
One thing I got to throw in there is if you are wondering what the light is behind your shadow, behind your fear, drop it in the comments. We'll help you figure it out together.
Yeah. Second monster, shadow, is shame, the silent destroyer. Shame is a monster that doesn't shout. It whispers. And it convinces us that we are unworthy, or we're broken, or we're unlovable. Unlike guilt, which says, I did something wrong, shame says, I am something. And when that voice takes hold and takes root in us, it drives us into hiding. It drives us into isolation. Shame thrives in isolation, and it feeds off that secrecy and silence. But it's a liar, is it not? Shame is a liar.
Shame is a liar. And man, does it hold on to the shadow so well. It will convince you of all these things without you ever realizing that's what's driving the emotion there. Shame is one of the most powerful emotions we can feel, and we feel it more often than we ever would realize. I read a book years ago called Healing the Shame That Binds You, and it's one of my favorite books. And it talks about how, especially when you're struggling with mental health, shame is associated with almost every negative emotion you feel. If you're feeling angry and you're lashing out, it's because you're feeling shame to some level. If you're feeling a level of sadness that is profound because of something you feel is wrong with you, it is shame that is governing that.
Yeah.
Shame hides and disguises itself in so many ways.
It's a damn liar. It is a no good POS liar. Because what it tells you is that your wounds and your traumas disqualify you. Literally disqualify you from being what? A human. The truth is, these things make us human. And I can't think of any better thing to be. I mean, I'm grateful for all the good things and the bad things, because I get to have this unique experience, right?
It's the messiness of human experience that makes it so beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it'll tell you that no one could ever accept you, when in reality, connection is the very medicine that heals this.
Another book I read, The Anatomy of Loneliness, another really good book. And it talks about the 3 pillars of loneliness. And at the core of it, the main pillar is shame. We are afraid to show ourselves who we truly are to people. We're afraid to put ourselves out there. We feel insignificant compared to the sea around us of people. When in reality, the sea around us is struggling just like we are. They crave connection just like we are. And they're dealing with a lot of the same issues.
Yeah. So, of course, the axiom that we have to go to for this is one of my favorites, one of our most powerful ones. It's at the center. It's at the heart of our path. And that one is, no one is beyond redemption. That which is corrupt takes time to reform. Now, these 2 axioms bring us to a place where we must reflect upon the boundless potential for transformation, for alchemy. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, which cannot be broken, ever. You cannot break the soul. You cannot break the spirit. No one is beyond redemption, for redemption is the doorway to renewal and growth. It's not an ending, it's a beginning. And this beginning, this journey of redemption begins with the recognition that our imperfections, it's recognizing our imperfections and the willingness and the courage to take those first steps toward change, toward alchemy. Because within us, Michael, is the capacity for compassion and generosity, or wickedness and cruelty. We're capable of doing both of these things. So we have to double our efforts always in cultivating calm and stillness and peacefulness, because our thoughts, our motives, and deeds have the power to betray us.
You know, one thing that can help you sort of analyze, do I feel shame? Am I someone who is shame-based? Ask yourself, do I act the same way around my close friends and family as I do in public or at work? Now, mind you, there's certain levels that you're going to taper off there. But how much are you showing up differently in places that aren't places you just feel safe? That is a surefire sign to know you are feeling shame. Because you feel shame of being, even though you don't think it, it's not like your conscience like, oh, no one would like me. It's, I don't feel comfortable showing myself for who I truly am.
Right, right. We have to understand how we philosophically negotiate and spiritually reconcile the world around us, because this directly influences our alignment with all of creation, with the entire universe, with life force energy. And I hate to break it to you, bro, but some of this internal corruption is not something that any of us have the luxury of ignoring. And yes, it takes considerable amounts of patience to identify, to call it out, to stand against, and then to move against it. This is a path of self-discovery and self-improvement, where the shadows of our past, the monsters that lurk, can be transformed into something, into a light for a brighter future for us. And as we talk about, you and I talk about a lot, the nature of reform is a patient and persistent thing, because we have to mend, we have to heal, right?
Yeah.
We have to face these things that are corrupt about us in order to bring about that positive change. I know you love your analogies. So here's one for you. Just as the river carves its course through the rock over time, so too does reform shape the landscape of not only our inner landscapes, but of society, of institutions, of whole worlds and universes.
That's beautiful. And it's true. I mean, you spend a lifetime being who you are. It's going to take work and time to build that new landscape. You know, I was listening to this interview and it was beautiful. And there's a guy who was struggling with addiction, and he was now clean for I think it was 5 years. And he's like,
oh, good for him.
I kept struggling. I'd get 2 months in and I'd relapse. Mm. And finally I had to sit with myself and I had to realize I gave myself 27 years to be what I was. And I only was willing to give myself 2 months of trying to be someone else. And it's like, that don't work. No. It is a commitment, a lifelong commitment.
No. I know a few people like that right now, possibly. And if you're listening, reach out to me. Reach out to me. I can help you with this. So what's the agreement that you think best fits this?
Mercy.
Mercy's a good one. Why mercy? Why mercy?
Because mercy's not just for everyone in our lives. It's not for those who have wronged us. If anything, the most important person and the hardest person to give mercy to is ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we can't give ourselves the grace, if we can't let ourselves be redeemable to ourselves.
What was that other word you used? Grace? It's another good one too.
Yeah. Makes me think I could fit somewhere alongside mercy.
Right. Right. These things dissolve shame in their presence. If you're truly graceful with yourself, if you're truly merciful, yes, justice is important. Seek justice, but love only mercy. Love only grace. Right? Yeah. Because when we extend mercy, what are we doing? We're giving ourselves permission to grow, but also to stumble, but also to stand back up, to rise again, right?
And I think there is one other key thing we need to have when it comes to healing shame. Connection. Again, like I talked about earlier, how it's hard to be authentic around people that aren't your social circle. You cannot heal relational trauma without relationships.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Without having mirrors in our life, we can't see ourselves for who we truly are. The point of having connections, to have that circle, is to have reflected back to us the best parts of ourselves, as well as the parts that are flawed and acceptable. Because you will be surprised how many people will love you for every perfect imperfection.
Everybody I know and everybody I love is imperfect, and I love them for that, including myself. I do. Sanctity of life is one of the ethos that come to mind here too, because at the end of the day, respect for all life, every soul is sacred. No matter how flawed, no matter how wounded, no matter how imperfect. Notice I didn't say broken. I do not like the word broken. Not for this. Wounded, imperfect, flawed, we all are, all of those things. But to honor this ethos is to honor life. And in that is a refusal to abandon ourselves and to abandon others. So, our exercise for shame. We're going to write this one out. Yes, I'm giving you journaling stuff for later too, but this is an extra one. Take out your journal, find you a page, and write down one message that shame has told you. For example, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve love, which are lies, by the way.
Yep.
Don't believe that. But write down the message that shame has told you. Now, in good old-fashioned new Ashla fashion, we're going to challenge it. We're going to challenge that lie, because that's what we do. Next to it, write this response. This is shame, not truth. No one is beyond redemption. I am worthy of love and light. Now, we're going to release it. Once you've sat with that and accepted the fact that shame is a liar and that you've challenged it with truth, you're going to release it from there. Rip that page out of your journal. Don't let it soil the rest of your beautiful journal with all those lies. Tear the page, burn it, tear it up. You could place it in a box that says lies I no longer carry. Right? You can cuss at it, stomp on it, do whatever, destroy it. Right? Because it's a lie, and we stand away from lies here. And then lastly, you're going to affirm, I am not my mistakes. I am worthy of healing and light. Anything to add to the break in the silence of shame? Beating shame's behind?
The longer you sit with yourself as you go to reflect on this, the more you're going to find answers. Don't be afraid of the darkness.
So the next one, anger and hatred. We'll call this monster the Devourer. Ooh. I should write some scary movies about some of these.
I'm sure we could make some good ones, some good thrillers, horror thrillers.
So, anger and hatred. Why is this the Devourer?
Because this is the thing that turns people into demons. It's the thing that makes us cut all our connections and turn to only trust ourselves. It is one of the darkest roads you can go down because once it consumes you, it is so hard to break free. It is probably the most consuming out of all of these.
Anger as an emotion, like all of our emotions, are not evil in themselves, right? An emotion in its purest form is a signal, like we say. It's saying, hey, pal, yeah, you like that? Something you need to pay attention to, right? I get angry, justifiably angry when I need to, because sometimes that's telling me that something that's happening in front of me is unjust, or something or someone in either myself or someone that I care about is wounded, or something within me is in need of a change. But anger is a flame, right? We talked about this probably a few months ago on one of our shows. We talk about these wildfires, right, from anger.
Yo.
When we leave this unattended. And this is kind of off the topic, but the same. I learned today or yesterday that Smokey the Bear is not a thing anymore. Did you know that? They don't do the whole Smokey the Bear thing at schools anymore. Yes. What kind of crap is this? Who do we have to
talk to about this?
Yes. Because, like anger, wildfires start because flames are left unattended.
Yep.
But when you leave anger unattended and you don't pay attention and you don't let it serve its pure purpose as an emotion, as a signal, that flame becomes a wildfire. And then what happens when you have fire? You have smoke, and it blinds you. It blinds you to compassion. It will burn up and corrode your judgment, burns the bridges of connection, as you said earlier. But when it hardens into hatred, that's when you turn. That's when you change. People can come out of anger. We can put fires out. But left unchecked for too long, it gets hardened and it becomes hatred. And that is a poison of the heart. And that corrodes the spirit. That corrodes our connections with all the spirits.
No, I've seen it firsthand. It is crazy how much hatred can just... I had a friend, I was just going through a lot of the journey with me when I got into healing. And we had both gone through similar type events. And as I was doing the healing scene, I watched as it just slowly, how it corrupted his view of the world, his perception, it just started being like, you can't trust women. You got to be an authoritarian man. You have to be domineering and you can't trust anyone. And it's like, no, that is not the path. And it just like, it broke my heart because we don't allow ourselves to heal from when someone has done us wrong. Forgiveness, it will calcify into hatred and it will taint our view. You know, you look at so many old people that are bitter, and many of them, I'm sure, were happy-go-lucky at some point until someone did them dirty, and that anger calcified into hatred, because sometimes someone can do us wrong and there's nothing we can do about it. And when that happens, that anger arises and it has no outlet. It turns inwards, because that's really what hatred does. It takes that anger and it goes inward.
Right. So it doesn't only devour relationships, and not just with the relationships that are broken or severed, but with all relationships going forward. But as you said, it devours that peace within too. And sometimes anger is a good defense, a good mechanism for defense, right? But again, gone to the extreme becomes the very cage or prison that traps us. So I want to, as I always do with emotions, I always want to point out, your true strength is not found in suppressing anger, but also not in unleashing it blindly, just on the whole world, but recognizing it as a signal, transforming it into something that helps you understand what's happening, what's going on, and then you can take constructive action.
Yeah.
So the axiom that ties into this one, into anger and hatred, the one I chose was approach understanding with light, and darkness will never gain purchase. What do you think of that axiom for this?
I think it's the perfect axiom for this. One thing that's always helped me, I've had people who have wronged me, I've had things happen in my life that hurt me deeply. But you gotta see the humanity behind everyone and events that happen. Just like we mess up, other people mess up too. And they might not be accountable to it. They might never tell you they're sorry. But often they are more broken than you are in those situations. We must see the light within everyone. It doesn't mean we have to let them into our lives. It doesn't mean that we have to trust them. But we are all created from the same energy, and we're just conditioned by different experiences, beliefs, and survival mechanisms. And some people have learned some pretty bad coping mechanisms. If we can see the humanity in the people who have wronged us, it allows us to heal. It allows us to change that story from this bad person did this to me to they were hurting too, and they didn't know how to cope with it.
My friends, listen. To be illuminated by the light is to be bathed in that radiant glow of wisdom, discernment, truth. Some to your point about seeing that spark within everyone, but also letting truth guide you here. Right? It's a beacon that guides us away from these shadows and these shadows of misunderstanding and fear. See how fear likes to weave its way into everything? Because the truth dispels the darkness of ignorance and confusion. In this light of understanding, prejudice and bias find no foothold. It becomes a force that we use that unites rather than divides, because it helps us recognize the common humanity that binds us all to every other thing. And when we approach life with a heart and mind filled with understanding, these divisive forces, such as these forces of darkness, such as hatred and intolerance, they lose their power. They lose their power. They die. I have what I do for a living now is I manage a forest, and part of that responsibility is I have to help people protect their homes from wildfire, because wildfire is one of those things. It is inevitable. It's not a matter of if a wildfire is going to run through a forest. It's a matter of when, right? And the thing that guards us the greatest against a wildfire, losing our homes, are to fight the embers that are floating around and they're raining down upon a house. So the best way to do that is to ensure the embers can never take a foothold, that they land on the house and they what? Die.
Go out. Yeah.
They die, right? Such as hatred, such as intolerance, such as these dark forces. The light of truth kills them. Now, as we always say, because I like to give you the balanced picture here, living a path like this one is always the most challenging part. right?
Yeah.
But you have to understand that you cannot remain as you are and expect such a fundamental and profound transformation to happen. It's never going to happen overnight. These long-lasting changes, this alchemy, happens by taking small, measured steps, not these giant leaps. Sometimes leaps of faith are necessary, but not always. That is the exception to the rule, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
it's like you think about philosophical concepts, they can be life changing when you learn them. But if you do not start putting the things you learn into practice,
Mhm.
it's going to be just a fleeting thought. You're going to get this aha moment and it's going to vanish. Because without action, wisdom is just not, that's not wisdom, that's knowledge.
Yeah. And knowledge is only as good as of how applicable it is to your life and your path. There's lots of knowledge out there that's absolutely useless. You will never use any of it, I promise you. Right? It doesn't mean you stop being curious, but just keep in mind as you're going along, am I really going to need this? And if the answer is no, then, and that goes for our philosophy as well. If you get through, if you start getting through it and you're like, nah, no hard feelings,
Yeah.
no hard feelings, because if it's not for you, it's not for you, and that's fine. The agreement that I put in here, and this one is usually prevalent in a lot of things we talk about, is mercy. Because forgiveness is not weakness. Doesn't, and if you guys really want a good show, I've had so much good feedback about the show we did on forgiveness with Courtney DiMatteo. It's in the list here. It'll be down here somewhere. If you haven't listened to it yet, listen to it and listen to what I'm saying right now, and then go back and find it in that show. But this is not a weakness. Forgiveness is not a weakness. It's one of the most powerful, yet one of the most necessary, unfortunately, one of the most necessary things you have to do.
Deal.
And you're not approving of the harm that was done to you or the anger that you unleash or someone unleashed on you, but you're refusing to let that bitterness corrupt your spirit and really control your life.
Yeah. I mean, through mercy, through the ability to release someone from that bind. Because often when we have that resentment, when we have that hatred, it's doing nothing but poisoning our own souls.
What is it? What is it everybody always says?
It's
Having
like
hatred.
drinking.
Yeah. Go ahead, say it.
It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Right. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, you're just going to die, and then you're going to be like, oh, man.
Well, that was wrong.
Dang
Try
it.
again next time.
Yep, I'll get recycled and try again next time. So our exercise for anger and hatred is a pretty simple one. But like always, we want to identify the fire. We want to identify this. And you can sit in meditation with this, or you can write it down on a journal. I write it down because I don't remember things all the time. Think of a situation where anger has taken hold. I mean, it's not just a real quick and gone, but it's grabbed you. Now you're ruminating, right? Think of a time where anger has caused you to ruminate and you can't let go. Write it down in a sentence or speak it out into a sentence if you want to do it as a meditation. Now you're going to name the wound. Beneath anger is almost always some kind of hurt, some kind of fear, or some kind of unmet need, right? And you can ask yourself, here's an example, what wound is really driving this anger? Why am I so pissed off about this little thing that has nothing to do with why I'm pissed off, Michael?
Yeah.
Right? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to shift that to light. I want you to say this to yourself, and you can say it as a mantra. Say it out loud, whatever you need to do. I release hatred. I choose understanding. My heart remains untouched by darkness. Sit with that for a week, right? Use those anytime. And these, I like to make these to where they are a good affirmation, but also great for a mantra when you need them. Because mantras are good when you need them in the moment.
They're amazing.
They are. And then the last thing you're going to do here is when you're ready, choose one compassionate action toward yourself or toward another person, if that's where all this is going toward. Even something small should always start small. That channels this energy into truth, into light.
Beautiful.
The next monster, the next shadow we're going to talk about is deception, the masked one. Now, you took us through a show literally like 2 or 3 shows ago about the scariest mask we wear. Why is deception such a powerful shadow?
Deception's so powerful because it's the one thing that we can use to become ignorant to all the things going on inside of us, all the things going on around us. Through deception, we can paint perception as whatever we want to. And I mean that in a very bad way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of what you see going on in the world today, where people are deciding to paint people as villains, trying to paint themselves as heroes. And often we don't stop to ask what's really going on.
What's
we can
true?
rob people of their humanity.
Yeah, what's really true here? Is it true? It's something you ask your kids when your kids run up and they say, well, so-and-so called me this. And it was, for me, it was usually their sisters. They were always bickering and always going at each other. And I'd ask them, is it true? Are you really this thing? Well, no. Then why do you care, right? Deception goes both ways. It's us trying to deceive the world, and it's the world trying to deceive us too. But they're all masked, and deception wears many different faces. Sometimes it's that lie that we tell ourselves or tell others to protect ourselves, to gain approval, or a big one that I see, to avoid conflict. Most people are very passive aggressive. Other times it's even more subtle, but probably more dangerous. It's that lie, the greatest lie ever told.
The lie we tell ourselves.
Lie we tell ourselves, I'm fine. I don't need help.
I don't have a problem.
This doesn't matter. But it does. Every lie fractures that trust. And trust is really at the foundation of both our well-being and the well-being of our community. And from there to our country, and to our state, and to our territory, whatever, out into the deepest parts of space and beyond, if there is such a thing. But when we live in deception, even if it's unintentionally, because we start to tell those stories long enough, what happens? We start to believe them, and they start to become the very fabric of our being, right? And it's all based on a lie. As a side note, I'm working on some parables for our teachings, and this very thing that we're talking about is one of the stories. Do you remember the story where the guy? Do you remember like me sharing that with you? The story of the guy who everybody thought was a hero because he told a lie and no one could prove whether it was true or not. So he just lived on it. And like 25 years later, some really smart person finally comes and calls him on it. And his whole just world just comes unraveled, right? And then it's like, because he built his whole life over around this lie, that he told it first by telling others over and over and over and over and over again. But as he did that, he's also telling himself the same lie. And it becomes, true.
His reality.
It's reality, even though it's not true. So when we live this way, even unintentionally, we drift away from our authentic selves, which is the whole point of this whole thing, is to be authentic, which is already hard enough. Why are you making it harder on yourself, right? Because sometimes we can't help it. Because
sometimes it's shame.
Sometimes it's shame. Sometimes it's fear. But as we talked about in another show, it's like, remember how I talked about how the mask starts to root and it starts to dig in and you can't get it off, right? The longer you wear it, the harder it is to remove it.
Well, it's like little white lies, right? Often you see people who will tell that one little white lie thinking it's going to be harmless, but then it just fractures into more and more and more.
It does, because people don't investigate it until you've already told it 1,600 times.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, crap. Now there goes your credibility. There goes everything that... And you know what? A lot of good people tell little white lies, but they hold on to them forever. And it really becomes a problem. Because this attacks our integrity. It corrodes our dignity. And it puts up these walls of mistrust between us and others. Even disconnects us from...
Yeah. I mean, one thing I got to add is, we talked a little bit about how we lose trust, not just with others, but with ourselves. Self-trust is one of the most important things you can have. And you can cognitively convince yourself something is real, but the soul always knows. And that will follow you and follow you. You got to be able to turn around and look these things in the eye and see the truth. You must crave truth, because truth is what sets you free.
It is. I was looking at my coffee cup, and so I'm one of those dads that buys his daughters and his wife and his mom Valentine's Day presents, like little stupid little things. And this coffee cup, it says Snappy Valentine's Day. Yeah,
That's great.
it is great. And they love it. Or they pretend to. Maybe they're telling me with little white lies. I've been spending all this money on these stupid coffee mugs and teddy bears for a long time. Who knows? So, of course, the axiom that ties into this, of course, is truth has no regard for popularity, because the truth stands unyielding. It does not care. It's indifferent to the whims of public opinion. We did a whole show about this, probably one of our first, within our first 5 shows, we did a whole show on this axiom. Popularity sways back and forth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like what was popular when I was a little kid is now becoming popular again. And I'm like, why? Don't, right? But these things are when truth is based on what's popular, it is then subject to the impulses of society and, of course, the passage of time. And the passage of time shows no mercy to trends, right? But the truth, deeply rooted into the literal ethos of the universe, into creation itself, it's number 2 on our ethos list for a reason. It remains resolute and unswayed by the shifting sands of public favor. I am infamous for saying I don't give a crap what people think is popular. I am going to do what I like, and I'm going to do what I feel is best. Drives my wife crazy. And of course, the luminary, us, we value truth second above all else, love being the first, recognizing that it's not the applause of the world that defines the worth of a principle or belief. Doing this podcast, I hope to reach everyone, but I'm not doing this for applause or praise or whatever. Because at the end of the day, if I reach just a dozen of you, if I reach just one of you, I'm happy with that. Not because I'm settling, but because the truth is hard to swallow. It's hard to accept. And we've talked about this before, if we could do all different kinds of shows and have all kinds of fame and fortune,
Popular content,
we refuse. Not because I enjoy popular content sometimes too, but I don't feel good about not telling the truth. So we value truth above all else except for love. Love is number 1 for us. It's that because it's not the applause or the praise or the fame or the fortune that defines the worth of a principle or belief. Instead, it is the intrinsic authenticity and alignment with the universal order, the universal laws that give truth significance. Because proof is where, Michael? It's everywhere.
Everywhere, yep.
It's all around us all the time.
But I'd say one of the beautiful things with truth is the more you start to embody truth, one of the reasons we push truth probably every episode is because when we start to look at truth, when we start to embody truth, when we start to look for what is true, others will follow because we want to be the examples that we want to see in the world. We want to see the change we want to see in the world. And it's through truth is how we get there. Through honest evaluations, through true seeing of how things are in the world.
Those of us who hold fast to truth, regardless of what's happening, regardless of what's popular today and popular tomorrow, we find ourselves literally anchored into the wisdom of all of creation, into the DNA of creation. So I implore you all to question commonly held beliefs all the time and to be open-minded and willing to change your views in light of new information or evidence, because we have to be responsible with our thoughts and our words and our actions. And as elusive as the truth can be sometimes, we are reminded that it's not determined by what is popular or widely accepted. There is a quote, and I won't give it today because I don't have it in front of me, but there's a quote. It's a speech that Captain America gives Spider-Man during the first Civil War event. Go find that and read that. But go look up that quote and you'll see what I mean. It's one of the greatest quotes ever. But Captain America is one of the greatest superheroes ever. I might be biased in that. You know, you guys have seen The Shield. Well, when I used to face that way. So, and again, remember, the greatest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. So always be curious, open to learning, be a seeker of truth above all else. So this one might throw you off, but I have faith in you. I have faith, which is one of our agreements. What is the agreement you think ties into this? Into honoring our word.
Well, you said it right there.
Honor, nobility.
Yeah.
Right? The agreement of honor we use is nobility because it encompasses the path complete, the path in totality. as a knight, right, is to choose honor over falsehood always, because a noble heart, a great heart, as we call it, would rather face discomfort than cloak itself in illusion.
I mean, it's through honor that it's our words we speak and the actions we take that define our character. When we are out of alignment with that, even with ourselves, that sows mistrust. That shows
especially with ourselves. You're right. You are absolutely right. And that leads us to our ethos tie-in. Integrity. How important is integrity here?
Integrity is a must. Integrity is the flagpole in which you stand by to define yourself.
Yeah.
It is through it is through the actions you take or the lack thereof that will define who you are, not just everybody else, but to yourself.
Yeah, which is most important. How people see you, how people honor you is not important. You must be in alignment with your inner and outer life. Integrity is wholeness. It brings us back into harmony when we lose it. And we will, and you will, and we do. It's who you are in secret and also who you are in the world. This allows the light and truth to flow without obstruction. So, our mini exercise for truth, the mirror of truth, to face this monster, this shadow. This one, you're going to have to use a mirror. And I might have stolen a little bit from this one from one of your exercises a while back, but it's powerful. Look into your own eyes. Ask yourself, where am I not being completely honest with others, with myself? Get your journal. I know you have one because I've been begging you to get one this whole time. 68 episodes worth. Write down one small deception that you've noticed in your life. Doesn't have to be big, and it probably shouldn't be. Remember, start small. And it could be something as silly as even pretending that you're fine when you're not. Because as small as that sounds, that's a big one. It's a lie you're telling yourself. And you're sharing that lie with others. Say to yourself, out loud or to yourself, whatever you feel more comfortable. I release the mask. I choose truth, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. Because when it's uncomfortable, you know you're hitting the sore spot.
Yeah.
I honor myself by walking in integrity. Remember, integrity is not about perfect. Okay? Just remember that. And the next logical step from here is to consider one honest action you can take today, whether it's admitting to something to yourself or speaking truth. But remember, just because truth has no regard for popularity doesn't mean you got to be mean about it. Try to be kind. Use your words wisely. Be impeccable with your words, right?
You have to be.
Have to be. You want to add anything to that exercise?
If you're someone who realizes that there's a lot of areas they are deceitful, this is a practice. The more you slowly unweave this web, the more you're going to find grounding in your authentic self. Sometimes we create a life of illusion so that no one sees us for who we are, for our shortcomings, for our failures. It's okay to be human. Don't be afraid to work through this, because I know it can be horrifying. But once you get to that authentic self, once you no longer have these kind of weights on your back, it is liberating. It gives you so much more energy to carry forth in life and to create so much more.
Yeah. It does. Well said. So our last monster we're going to talk about today, the last shadow, is greed and attachment. Now, we've talked about attachment a lot. We don't talk about greed a whole lot. We've done whole shows about attachment, but it's worth repeating. Greed and attachment are the shadows that disguise themselves as hunger for security or for love or for recognition, for connection, for belonging, right? But the more we cling, as I've said before, the tighter we hold, the more we lose. But the more we cling, the less we actually hold on to. Because your possessions, they'll fade. They're not going with you. Status crumbles because status is something that other people give. So what does that mean? Other people can take away. And people cannot be owned. You cannot own people. No matter how much you love them, you don't own them. You don't, right? You can't. They're not possessions. The more we tighten our grip, the more we feel the emptiness within. And this is something that you're fond of going to about people who often chase those things the most, often feel the most empty.
Yeah. Well, it's like when we look for love and validation outside of ourselves, when we don't know how to give ourselves these things, when we use external things to give us our needs, which it's okay to have needs with people, but we must give our core needs to ourselves, the love, the validation. we end up becoming desperate for it. We end up becoming zealous for it, depending on the path you fall into. Some people become tyrannical and controlling. Others end up losing themselves. And it's all through the greed of wanting to, and that hunger of wanting more, wanting that security, wanting that control. And even those who lose themselves, who are people pleasers, who play the hero, it is a subtle way to assert control. It's just wearing a cape.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is the endless hunger. It's more like a vampire, right? If we were to, talk about a monster from lore. Greed convinces us that the fulfillment comes from what? More and more and more. More wealth, more attention, more control. And attachment convinces us that if we just hold tighter, we won't lose what we love. But what both of these things do, they lead us away from the most authentic. Well, let me restate. What these two things do, they lead us away from freedom, which is the ultimate gift of authenticity. The greatest gift that we can give ourselves is freedom. And that only comes from by being authentic. And both of these things lead us away from that because we have to become something that we're not to give ourselves the illusion of the feeling that we're going to have those things. But really, they just put us in chains. They put us in chains. They bind us. They bind us to things. It's almost like selling your soul.
Even the Buddha said, at the heart of suffering is attachment. Whether it's to material goods, reputation, wealth, or love. Attachment is the root of all suffering.
Right. Because what you're doing is you're denying, you're swimming in a pool of lack. And you're denying the overwhelming abundance that the universe is already providing you, right? True wealth and true abundance is not found in possession, but it's found in connection and generosity. So the axiom we tie into this one is something we did a whole show on. So I won't dive too deep into this axiom, but it is disdain for those below you and envy for those above you is the way of darkness. How does that one tie into us here, into this one?
Well, it's all about things outside of ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so much of us, I mean, it's like, I remember I wanted to be an entrepreneur so bad, and I thought it was because I wanted to have the freedom and the flexibility. I wanted to be a business owner, and I wanted to go out there and do all these things. And as I've gone through this healing journey, I've realized like a lot of that attitude I originally had was all because I wanted to be seen for having a business. I wanted to be seen for being successful. All I cared about was the validation I got outside of myself. Instead of being like, hey, here you are right now. You're enough. Don't even worry about it. And that's one of the reasons this podcast we've been going now for almost a year. Is because we're coming at this not trying to do this for that validation, for the money. We're doing it because we're following purpose.
Yes. We are shining that light that we're talking about. We are facing these things, right? At our own peril sometimes. But to your example, all that stuff did was keep you trapped in comparison, right? Never finding peace at what you had in front of you. Now, this doesn't mean to settle. You should never settle until you find your authentic self and your authentic purpose, right?
Yeah.
But there are lots of good things in front of you that you are ignoring because you're trapped in this loop of comparison because you're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, these other business owners, well, I see lots of videos. This guy does it. This guy does it, right? The way of light releases envy and it honors dignity. And it remembers that no one is above or below. We are all threads in the same web. As I've said to you before, I am your teacher, Michael, but we're still here together.
Yep.
Here together. Just at a different orientation. And you'll find as you walk, and if you are aware, and if you are clear, that you will find others in your life where you are like this with them. They're going here and you're going here, but you're still connected. You're still
not better than, not more than, none of that.
Exactly. Just a different orientation, right? So the obvious agreement that ties into this last shadow for us has to be generosity, right?
Has to be. Through generosity, we can be humbled enough for those above us to ask questions, to learn from them, or for those below us to offer support and to want to help them rise as well.
Yeah. Without generosity, what is a knight? Let me ask you that question. Without generosity, what is a knight then? if they don't have generosity in their heart? Right. Are they really a knight? Because generosity is not simply charity. It is literally the spirit of the knight embodied in their actions. Without generosity, a knight is little more than just a shell, just an empty suit of armor, because it is the lifeblood that animates honor, gives life to compassion and loyalty and love, right? Now, a question that always comes up when I talk about generosity to other people is, well, does one person deserve help more than another? Sometimes, yeah, because the world will tempt us and it'll try to get us to weigh people on our own scales of worthiness, which is flawed. Even the best of us, right?
Yeah.
Because we're always told from all sides, some are deserving and others are unworthy, but that's the language of judgment. That is not the language of light, of truth. And Illuminari must rise above such narrow thinking, because we can never fully know the story of another person's heart or their life. We don't always see the hidden burdens that they carry. We don't always see their wounds, because in a lot of times they don't even see the burdens or the wounds, right?
Right.
Or the trials that they endure in silence.
Yeah, I mean, often as we're talking about how with the mask of deception.
Yes.
So many people are blind to the things they are doing that are sabotaging their own lives. And it's through grace, humility, it is through generosity of our time and our attention and our honesty. Can we help people come full circle with themselves and start this journey as well?
Yes.
Though again, it's not our job to push this stuff. Let them come to you. If you want to help someone, be the example you want to see.
That's right.
But when they're ready, offer that hand.
Offer, but don't force, right?
Yeah.
And yes, discernment must temper our generosity, because there are times where we enable harm or abuse by accident, right?
Yeah.
And that's not compassion. That's folly. That's a fool's errand. But beyond these extremes, the path of the Luminari, our path, the path of Ashla, calls us to be open-hearted and to give open-hearted. To empower others is to give them the strength to stand in their own truth, in their own light. Not to make them bow before ours. Not to think that we can buy our way to heaven or connection or to anywhere. Our task is not to produce followers, per se, but to kindle more beacons, to light more fires, to help others discover that strength that was theirs all along, was there all along. The truest generosity is not about money, but it's about presence and time and the willingness to see that divine spark in every single soul. A knight gives without seeking dominion, do we not?
Yes.
A knight uplifts without demanding repayment, do we not?
Yeah.
A knight serves without expectation of glory or applause or praise, do we not?
It's the way.
It's the way. So when generosity is absent, a knight becomes brittle and, as you said, self-serving. But when it's present, when it's truly present, generosity flows like those living waters that nourishes and heals and empowers. To be generous is to mirror Source himself, who gives without measure, without exhaustion, without condition. Now, like I'm fond of saying every time Michael brings up that people who chase wealth and people who chase fame and all this stuff find themselves empty, I like to offer the devil's advocate response to that. Because, again, it's about balance. Accumulation is not in itself the enemy. Because we may gather wealth, we may gather knowledge, we may gather resources. But the distinction, Michael, is that these things are tools that we wield. They're not our masters, right? It's in this over-attachment that corrupts us. Again, we all have some attachment to things. I like Michael more than I like lots of other people. Right? But that attachment is not an over-attachment. It does not, I don't allow it to harden into greed, because the hand that closes upon itself can no longer serve, right? And a greedy heart cannot truly lift others, which is our literal purpose for serving.
Yeah.
It is what animates us. Now, charities and organizations have their place, and it is really good to support most of them. Some of them, maybe. Do your homework, do your research, as we've said in another show about champion causes. But look, no gift can equal the weight of direct compassion, that hand extended the listening ear, that presence that says, you are not forgotten, bro. I see you. If you need me, I got you. Right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, we don't measure generosity by the size of the act, but in the sincerity of the heart. And the world is not transformed by these great, big, grand gestures. Sometimes they are, but most of the time, it's the countless small moments of care and responsibility that helps each little tiny spark of light pierce these shadows and these monsters. Do you have anything to add to all the things we talked about today, or generosity, or
Yes.
whatever?
So I have one
You
important
want.
thing.
Let's
Yeah.
hear it. I
So
know.
generosity.
I gave you a lot. Let's hear it.
Man, this is all gold right here. But when we're talking generosity, if you're someone listening to this and you're like, I'm actually a very generous person, I give to those I care about, I give. Ask yourself, is there a balance there of generosity with others and generosity with yourself? Because it is equally important to be generous with yourself. If you find yourself on a scale here, if you're on the side where you're too generous with others, the method I've come up with for myself to start cultivating more generosity with myself is I must be 51% selfish and 49% selfless. If you're someone who struggles with generosity with others, flip it. I must be 51% selfless and 49% selfish. Through this, we can cultivate the skills we need. For those who are learning to be generous with themselves, that means you put yourself first in any ordeal. And it doesn't mean to be selfish or to be domineering, but it means to make sure you put yourself at the front of the actions you take so that you're not self-abandoning for others. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the spectrum, that 51% selfless means you're going to think about the consequences of your actions before you impact those around you. So take that to heart when it comes to this. And again, give yourself grace. This has maybe been something I've started to embody for the last couple years, but by no means am I perfect at it. Practice, practice, practice. With this whole episode, all things, it takes time, and it's okay to start from way back here and work your way up. Just give yourself grace, give yourself love, and give yourself compassion.
I'm going to give you a little bit of grace because you embody the teaching of generosity. You do. I see it. You do. You are so giving with your time, but not too giving, because you have a great balance in your life, right? And I know that was a hard road for you to get to, but you got there. Don't stop practicing ever. As our path dictates, we start off with awakening, but we end up with awakening. There's never an ending to this path. We just start again. But I will tell you that you embody this lesson well, my friend.
I appreciate it.
You do. You do. And of course, the ethos to tie into this shadow, this monster, is connection. It has to be connection. Because that illusion of greed is separation, disconnection, right?
Yep.
Because you're saying things like, I got to keep all this for myself because there's not enough for us all. So I might as well take it. Might as well hold on to it. Might as well. And that's not just goods and services and money, and that's time and love and compassion and things like that too. Because the truth of connection reveals to us that abundance belongs to us all in equal measure. We just have to learn to see it already manifesting in front of us. We don't settle, but we also don't disconnect. And in connection and in generosity, we realize that wealth and abundance multiplies when it is shared, not when it's hoarded. So our practice for generosity, this one might be tough for some of you. Something like this is tough for some people in my house. I won't say who they are. I know they're listening. Some of them are listening. But when it's time to clean out the closet, I'll say, this part gets hard in my house. Not for me, because you guys see, I wear the same damn shirt almost every time. So I don't own many shirts.
I always have to mix it up.
I know. That's because I don't own many. But find a small object and start small. Don't give yourself a trauma over this. But find a small object that you value, but you also are willing to part with. It could be a little stone that you like, that you think is pretty. It could be like a little crystal. It could be a coin. It could be just a keepsake of some kind. Now, I want you to hold it tightly in your hand, make a fist, and do that for a minute. And I want you to hold grip real hard. Now, don't do this with like a cactus or something, I don't have you guys signing waivers or anything, but take it and hold tightly for a minute. Notice the tension and notice the discomfort and the effort it takes to cling on to it. Now, we can sit here for a whole minute and do this, and I can tell you I'm already getting sick of squeezing this crystal in my hand already. Once you've done that for at least a minute, notice the tension and all that stuff. Now, slowly open your hand and feel how good that feels to release in your body. Your muscles get to stretch out, and the space you've now created in your hand around the object. It feels better, doesn't it? Especially this thing, because this little damn thing was stabbing me on my thumb. Place the object somewhere that you can give it away. So place it away from you. All right, that's no longer mine. It's over here. I'm going to give it to somebody. And I will give this to somebody tomorrow. Okay? Michael will verify that for me. And I'm not giving it to you, Michael, so don't get your hopes up.
Gosh darn it.
Place the object somewhere away from you, and you're going to give this away to a friend, to a stranger. You could bury it in the earth as an offering to creation. Don't give it to an animal. They'll choke to death on it. You know, I shouldn't have to tell you guys this. You guys are grown-ups. You know this. And once you've done that, once that's all done, and you don't have to do this tomorrow, or give yourself some time if you need it, but once you give it away and you come back home that day, I want you to reflect on something. What else am I holding on to in my life that drains me? Thoughts, fears, feelings, untamed emotions. How can I begin to release? What steps do I need to take to begin to let go? And what can I do so that the flow of abundance can move freely within me? Anything you want to add to that exercise?
No, that's good. That's powerful. And unfortunately, you called me out a lot with it too, because I am one of those hoarders.
I was being very careful, not because I know that you're a hoarder, because you don't present as a hoarder, but
I'll take it. They see my background.
For many years, some of the worst calls I ever went on was going to a house where there was a medical emergency and I could not even get to the person. Crawl and climb and literally dig my way to them sometimes. So I understand the extremes. And if you have those kind of problems, you really, really, really need to reach out to someone who can help you with that. There are teams of people out there. They have counselors and organizers and people who can, kind of like the show, Hoarders. Those teams actually exist out there, and they're ready to help. And a lot of times they can help for free. So we're gonna end this show by integrating everything we've talked about today. And we're gonna do something that I'm very fond of, and I'm very fond of saying. Everything could be a teacher if we allow it, right? So we're going to integrate these things. We're going to turn the monsters into teachers. These shadows, these monsters we face, whether it's the fear, the shame, anger, deception, greed, or all of those things, they're not enemies to destroy. We integrate here. We integrate. We don't associate with, but we integrate, because when you start throwing things away just haphazardly, what happens? You may throw away something that's
Really
good in
important.
you. Right. So these shadows, if we allow them to be, they could be guides. And they almost always are. They're guides. They point us to where we must give attention to. They show us where the wound is. They show us where our healing is most needed, but also what lesson we need the most in that moment. So again, in Ashla, we are not called to deny, repress, destroy, but to transform, to perform alchemy. So each of these shadows carries a message. Fear into courage. Fear reveals where trust must grow. Shame into grace. Shame is a signal that there are places that we most need forgiveness and mercy. Anger into mercy, because anger highlights where compassion is missing. Deception into integrity. When lies are exposed, truth must stand. Wholeness must be what we become. Deception's a really good place to learn integrity. It really is, if you're brave enough to face it. Greed turns into generosity, because clinging demonstrates to us that the power of release is much more powerful than holding on to everything, right? So Michael teaches, our path teaches that the shadow is not a curse, but a teacher. You're not broken, you're not cursed. These are teachers. That's why I always say, we are our own best teachers. We have many lessons to teach ourselves. We need help, all of us, even me.
Yeah.
We all need help sometimes. Sometimes we can get through it, but there's nothing weak about reaching out for help. And every teacher leads us back to wisdom.
Now, those are such powerful tie-ins, too, because when we look at these things, I know at least one or two of these has resonated with each person who has listened to this. When we can go towards the antithesis, if we can go after courage when we're feeling fear, if we can seek mercy when we're feeling angry, all right, it's all about that switch, the gap between reaction or between stimulus and response.
Mm-hmm.
That is what will ground us, and that is what will help us persevere. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that is perfect every time, but
yes,
you can do it.
Michael, I love you. That was perfect. Fear is the reaction. Courage is the response. Shame is the reaction. Grace is the response. Anger is the reaction. Mercy is the response. Deception is the reaction. Integrity is the response. Greed is the reaction. Generosity is the response. You could even say it like this. Fear is the ailment. Courage is the medicine, right? Beautiful, my brother. Beautiful.
Appreciate
You're starting to get good. You're starting to get good at this.
You're rubbing off on me a little bit, I think.
God, I guess so. You're rubbing off on me too. See how that works? So our exercise, our final exercise is we're going to reframe. We like the reframing here, don't we? We do this, but it's important to reframe. In shadow work, rewriting the story, reframing. But rewriting and reframing in truth toward authenticity is what integrates the shadow for us, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're going to do this one at a time. Do not try to do all of these or more, because we only talked about 5 shadows today. There are many, many others. If there are ones that you are dealing with now that you have named and you've exposed, but you're trying to work through it, that we didn't talk about today, you can replace that into this exercise. But do one at a time, because it may take you months or years or 6 days. I don't know. That part's up to you. But you have to do it truthfully and honestly. So choose one shadow that feels most present in your life right now. Get your journal. Write it down naming it honestly, as painful as that may be. Name it. Rumpelstiltskin, right? Don't call it Rumpelstiltskin, but you know what I mean. For example, I feel fear when I think about failing. I always use that one because that's a pretty common one. It's something that has plagued me over time. Now, beneath that, I want you to reframe it into truth, into light. And if it's fear, the example I'm using, you write the word fear, write you an arrow, and then I want you to write in quotation marks. I know this seems silly, but I want you to write it in a way that's framing it coming from you, coming from your voice. I am learning courage. If it's shame, write the word shame, put a little arrow in quotation marks. I am receiving grace. Anger, same thing. Quotation marks. I am practicing mercy. If it's deception, same thing. Quotation marks. I am walking in integrity. Greed, same thing. In quotation marks. I am choosing generosity. And for each one, whatever one you're working on, speak that truth aloud at least 3 times, but speak it 100 times if you need to. 300 times. That part isn't important, and this is not a contest, and we're not comparing. So
build those neural pathways.
Yes. Throw them bumps on your head. Not on your head, but in your head, right? And end with a moment of stillness. Placing your hand over your heart, and you say, I am not my shadow. I am the light that transforms it. So any thoughts on the exercise? Anything you want to add to that?
No, that was beautiful.
All right. So what are your final thoughts, and what are your calls to action for today's episodes?
If you listened all the way through, I'm telling you, you got to pick at least one shadow. It doesn't have to be one of the ones we have on here. You know what's stopping you. And if you don't know what it is in form, sit with yourself. Sit in that dark void and allow it to come to you. I heard this beautiful quote by Jordan Peterson, and it's, if there's something stopping you in life, all you have to do is sit there and ask, what is it that's holding me back? And it will come to the surface. You may not like the answer, but it will come.
You probably
Evaluate
won't
it.
like the answer.
Yeah, sit with it. Learn to give yourself grace for it. and then start working on how you can counter this. Start building those neural pathways. Start building practices and things you can do to stop in the moment, to not be reactive, but instead to respond. Because that's where the magic happens. It's not in figuring things out. It's not in reading the books. It's in the small steps that you take and the actions you make.
Yeah, well said. All right, let's do our affirmative prayer. Light of creation, eternal source of truth and love, I open myself now to your presence. I affirm that no shadow within me has power over the light that lives in me. Fear may whisper, but I answer with courage. Shame may rise, but I clothe myself in grace. Anger may burn, but I temper it with mercy. Deception may mask, but I stand in integrity. Greed may hunger, but I live in generosity. I declare that I am not bound by the monsters of the past. Each shadow is my teacher, pointing me back to you, back to connection, back to the sanctity of life that flows through all creation. With responsibility, I tend to the garden of my spirit. With patience, I trust the timing of my growth. With faith and hope, I walk forward in strength. With nobility, I live with honor. With love and respect, I affirm the dignity of all life, including my own. I release fear. I release shame. I release anger. I release deception. I release greed. I welcome courage, grace, mercy, integrity, and generosity to take their place. Today I walk as a servant of the light. I am whole. I am free. I am aligned with the truth of who I am. So be it, and so it is.
And so it is.
Our affirmations for today. I face fears with courage, knowing that the light within me is greater than any shadow. I release shame and embrace grace, affirming that I am worthy of love and belonging. I transform anger into mercy, protecting my heart with compassion and understanding. I live in integrity, removing every mask of deception and walking in the truth of who I am. I loosen the grip of greed and attachment, choosing generosity and connection as my true abundance. And our journal prompts. Justin, you keep giving us so much homework. Yes, I do. I want you to know that I do these things too. I do them before I give them to you. So I do my work twice. And Michael will tell you that I give him lots of homework, but it's not true because I've done the work twice before I even give it to him.
Oh, you give plenty of homework, but it all matters.
It all has a purpose. So the first journal prompt will be for fear, the paralyzer. Where in my life is fear keeping me from moving forward? What would courage look like if I took one step anyway? If I took one step anyway. For shame, the silent destroyer. What story of unworthiness do I keep telling myself over and over and over again? How can I replace it with a story rooted in grace, love, and most importantly, truth? For anger and hatred, the devourers. What unresolved wound lies beneath my anger? How can I bring mercy and compassion into that space? For deception, the masked one. Where am I hiding behind a mask? With myself, others, or even with creation itself? What would integrity restore if I embraced the truth, the whole truth? And for greed and attachment, the endless hunger. What am I clinging to most tightly? And what fear drives my attachment? How would generosity or connection bring me freedom here? I'll give you part of the answer. Unlimited potential. Mind-blowing stuff will happen to you. It is the truth. So thank you so much for joining us, Michael. Thank you, my friend. You always, 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 always bring the good stuff, the A game. I appreciate it.
They're right back at you.
And thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share our stuff if it resonates with you or if anything we talk about would help someone else that you know. So help us reach a broader audience. And of course, always put your comments, your suggestions, your gripes and complaints in the comments under these, wherever these shows are. Pretty much anywhere we post these, you have the opportunity to do that. So, and check out our website. Michael keeps pumping out the blog post. I am this close to putting out the teachings, and we have some exciting stuff coming for you soon. Well, we're really going to branch out and really set the world on fire in a good way here very, very soon. So,
yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. So thanks again. We love you guys. With love and gratitude, ad lucem.
Ad lucem.